Alright, legends, welcome along to Here's Rodder's Reviews. We're going to get into a little review on Season 2 of Generation 1 of the Transformers. Haven't done anything in this series for a long time, and I'm excited to get back into it. So, if you happen to be checking this video out, these videos that are based around 80s cartoons and that, I am going to be listing them as made for children. So they may not show up in the results, even if you're subscribed to the channel and have your notifications turned on, you still might not get notifications for this series. I'm going to be doing He-Man and the Masters of the Universe as well, and Dungeons and Dragons is on the way as well. This episode is called A Prime Problem, and typical fare for Generation 1 of the Transformers. The Decepticons come across these crystals, and of course they're always in the search for energy. That was the whole thing of the Generation 1 cartoon, particularly seasons 1 and 2. It was like a power race to find power to take back to Cybertron, and they come across these crystals, but Megatron is smart enough to know that these crystals are, deadly to any kind of mechanical life, and he comes up with the idea of tricking the Autobots into going into this crevice to these crystals and getting destroyed. But he knows Optimus Prime, as smart as he is, he'll work this stuff out as well. So in the first battle in this cartoon, they get the best of Optimus Prime and basically knock him unconscious, and they take holographic readings from him to get the specifications, top to bottom, and they're going to build a copy of him, a clone of Optimus Prime, to lead the Autobots to their deaths in place of the real one. Now, Megatron has a lot of fun with this. He creates the clone, and he can control it using his own mind. Like, he puts his helmet on, and his thoughts can be transmitted through the clone of Optimus Prime. Whatever he says into this microphone, the clone Optimus Prime will say in Optimus Prime's voice, basically. So he has a lot of fun screwing about with the Autobots. Like, he just doesn't go for the end plan here. He lets the clone lead the Autobots back to their base, and he screws about with them there for a bit, and eventually the real Optimus Prime turns up at the base, and they're doing all these tests on them. They get Teletran 1 to scan the two of them. They're completely the same from head to toe, so as far as the computer's concerned, they're identical. They're both Optimus Prime. So they try different tests, as in sharpshooting is one of them, a race is the other one. Pretty much every test they throw at these two, Optimus Prime and the clone, they're evenly matched. They finish off everything exactly the same. So they decide to head back to these diamonds to see what's happening. They're getting reports from Teletran 1 that they're on the verge of exploding, but this is another trick by Megatron. The clone was playing about with Teletran 1, and this brought up some doubts in the Autobots, because it was almost as if this Optimus Prime didn't know what he was doing. But Megatron, been one step ahead, was actually, it's not that the clone didn't know what it was doing, but he needed to be screwing about with different things to program Teletran 1 to tell the Autobots that there's a danger of these diamonds exploding, so they all have to head back with the two Optimus Primes. Ironhide takes lead of the Autobots so they can sort out this situation, and off they go. Megatron then comes up with the idea, okay, the clone, the only way he can defeat the Autobots, well, take the Autobots to their doom, essentially, is to completely win their trust, and the only way they can do that is if the clone Optimus Prime destroys a Decepticon. Now, cut it a little bit shorter here. Essentially, they build a clone of Starscream, send him in the battle in Starscream's place. Starscream controlling Starscream's clone. So the clone Optimus Prime and the clone Starscream fight each other. The Starscream challenges him to pretty much heavy metal war. The last episode in season 1, same deal. They fight each other. Whoever loses has to, their armies have to bugger off, essentially. Of course, this is all set up. The clone Optimus Prime destroys the clone Starscream, and the Autobots fall in line with the clone, basically, and turn on the real Optimus Prime. So he's trying to lead them into this crevice at the end of the episode, and the real Optimus Prime's shouting at them, don't do this. There's a whole other part that I missed out on here, where One Charger and Spike got into the Decepticon base, figured out what was happening, but before they could report this back, Spike was kidnapped by the Decepticons, and One Charger had fallen from their base towards the diamonds. We all thought he'd get destroyed at this point, but he didn't. He transformed before he hit the bottom, and because he was transformed into a car, he was on his tires. The rubber from the wheels were protecting him from the effects. So he comes up out of the crevice, warns them, and the clone Optimus Prime, essentially Megatron, really, is like, obviously the Decepticons have got the One Charger and reprogrammed them to tell you this stuff, listen to me, we're going to go and do this sort of thing. But where he slips up at is when Spike is called into question. We should really go and save Spike from the Decepticons, and like the clone Optimus Prime is like, Spike is not important, come with me, sort of thing. Megatron's just anti his plan. He wants to get them all destroyed as quick as possible, but because the clone Optimus Prime said to this, it's obvious at this point to every Autobot there, the real Optimus Prime would not put a human life at risk to do anything. So, they turn on the clone, destroy it. We're at the end of the episode. The Autobots go to attack the Decepticons at the end, and Megatron launches the ship that they're using for their temporary base into the air, and he's like, you know what, you're too late, Optimus Prime, but catch this if you can. And they drop Spike from the ship, but he is saved by Powerglide, and this is where the episode ends off at. They have a little moment between Spike and Optimus Prime, like, are you sure you're you, sort of thing. Yes, I'm me, that sort of dealio. That's a great little episode. I enjoy Generation 1 of Transformers so much that, I'm probably, now that I've done this review, chances are we're going to be going back to back over the next 2 or 3 weeks till we finish this series. And once we do that, I've got season 3, 4 and the first season of the Takara Transformers there to see. I may actually just bomb out a mess load of reviews of the Transformers. If you're my age, I'm 42 for God's sake, and I'm talking about cartoons and YouTube here. It's just, there's part of me will never grow up, and as long as I have got a platform where I can talk nonsense about the stuff that I enjoy, I'm going to do it. So if you're into the Transformers, get subscribed to the channel. And again, going to the rules here, YouTube is a completely different place than what it once was. Everything is going to be marked as made for children, so if you're into these sorts of videos, 80s cartoons, 90s cartoons, goodness knows that, once I start something, I don't know when to quit. So you definitely need to come to the channel, check out when a new video goes live. You will, chances are, never get a notification for the Made for Kids stuff. So hope you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you in the next episode.